Clara had grown up surrounded by whispers and cruel glances. A doctor's cold words years ago had labeled her as barren, and in the small town where she lived, that word carried more weight than her kindness, her intelligence, or her gentle spirit. Suitors came for her sisters, but never for her. To her family, Clara was nothing more than a burden, someone to marry off quickly. Before her, shame stained their name further. When a widowed cowboy, Luke, sent word that he needed a wife to help on his ranch, Clara's parents seized the chance. They dressed her in her plainest gown and told her, "He doesn't need children, only a housekeeper. You'll do." Their words stung like knives, but Clara didn't protest. What future did she have if not this? The wagon ride to Luke's ranch was long and silent. Clara's heart beat fast, expecting disgust or rejection once he learned the truth. But when she stepped down from the wagon, Luke's steady gaze met hers. His face was weathered from years of sun and labor, his eyes quiet and unreadable. "Welcome home," he said simply, extending a hand. It was the first time anyone had spoken those words to her. Clara's chest tightened as she placed her trembling hand in his. She didn't know what this marriage would bring, but for the first time in years, a small spark of hope flickered inside her heart. Life on the ranch was hard but honest. Clara cooked meals, mended clothes, and learned the rhythm of tending livestock. Luke worked alongside his men, his presence steady, his words few. He treated Clara with respect but kept his distance, as though afraid to grow too close. But the whispers followed her. Ranch hands muttered when they thought she wasn't listening. Neighbors at the trading post smirked and said, "Why would a man like him marry a barren woman?" Their words crawled under her skin, no matter how she tried to ignore them. One evening, Clara stood outside the porch, staring into the dark horizon, her chest heavy with shame. Luke stepped beside her silently. "You hear them, don't you?" he asked, his voice low but not unkind. Clara forced a thin smile. "It doesn't matter what they say. It's the truth." For a long moment, Luke didn't answer. Then, his jaw tightened, and he said quietly, "They don't know the truth. Only God does." The words struck deep. No one had ever defended her like that. Yet Clara still feared the day Luke might realize he had been given the wrong bride. Still, small changes began. Luke started asking her opinion about ranch matters. He carried water for her when she was tired, and once, Clara caught a fleeting smile tugging at his lips when she laughed. Each gesture was small, but for Clara, they were cracks of light breaking into years of darkness. One summer evening, dark clouds gathered without warning. Winds whipped across the plains, and thunder rolled like drums of war. Clara rushed to the barn to check on the horses when a bolt of lightning split the sky, striking an old oak. The tree crashed against the barn, trapping her inside as smoke and sparks filled the air. She screamed, clawing at the boards, fear choking her. Then, through the roar of the storm, Luke's voice cut sharp. He kicked down the weakened door, rain pouring over him, and dragged her into the safety of the open yard. Clara collapsed against him, shaking. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why would you risk yourself for me? I'm nothing. I can't give you children. I can't give you what others can." Luke gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his storm-lit eyes. His voice cracked with raw emotion. "Clara, do you think I married you for children? My first wife, she died giving birth. I buried her and our son on the same day. I don't need more children. I needed someone to live again with." The truth stunned her. Luke wasn't distant because of her, he was carrying his own grief. And in his pain, he saw her, not as broken, but as whole, as exactly who he needed. For Clara, the chains of shame began to break that night. She wasn't a burden. She was his choice, his partner. After the storm, something shifted between them. Luke no longer kept her at a distance. He invited her into his world, riding horses at dawn, showing her the hidden spring in the woods, sharing quiet laughter by the fire. For the first time in her life, Clara felt like she belonged. Yet doubts still lingered. One evening, as they sat at the supper table, Clara whispered, "Do you ever wish you had chosen differently? Someone who could give you children?" Luke set down his cup, his eyes steady on hers. Slowly, he reached across the table and took her hand in his calloused one. "Clara, I already have a family. You." Tears welled in her eyes. For years she had been told she was useless, a mistake. Yet here, with this man, she was wanted, not for what she couldn't give, but for who she was. The ranch hands began to notice the change too. Gossip gave way to respect when they saw the way Luke's gaze softened around his wife. Neighbors, once mocking, now spoke with reluctant admiration. Clara was no longer the infertile bride. She was Luke's lady, and no one dared say otherwise. Every day, Clara grew surer of one truth: love wasn't measured by children, but by devotion. And Luke loved her, fiercely, quietly, wholly. Months passed, and Clara bloomed on the ranch. She found joy in the rhythm of work, peace in evenings by the fire, and above all, love in Luke's steady presence. But her greatest joy came from Luke's little daughter, Mary. At first shy and withdrawn, the girl slowly warmed to Clara's gentle heart. Clara read her stories, braided her hair, and tucked her into bed each night. One evening, Mary clutched Clara's hand and whispered, "I'm glad you're my mama now." The words broke her. Tears spilled as she hugged the child tight, realizing she didn't need to give birth to be a mother. She was already one, chosen by love. Luke found her later, still wiping her eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked softly. Clara smiled through her tears. "Nothing's wrong. For the first time, everything's right." Luke kissed her forehead, pulling her close. "You're the only woman I'll ever love." And she believed him. The woman they had sent away in shame had become the heart of a home, the mother to a child, and the only love a cowboy would ever need. Clara was no longer the unwanted bride, she was cherished, chosen, and free.